Hello, everybody. Waiting for it. This is being recorded. Message usually comes on. Yes. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shambhavi Spectrum. I have here the lovely Fiona Swaffield, who has decided to spend her Thursday afternoon with me, and I'm so grateful for that. She is a busy. So that is 3 times busy entrepreneur. And Fiona, I would like you to tell me something about what are the 3 things that keep you busy, as in your background of the companies that you have. Please share some information with my audience.
So good afternoon, everybody, and it's such a pleasure to be here. Can't think of a better way to spend a Thursday afternoon. So yes, as you said, busy, and I originally set up my first business 13 years ago, and it's called Siren Events, and it's a corporate events company. Now, I set it up because events is my passion. I love organizing events. I come from a hospitality background, and it was quite an easy transition. I'd worked in hotels, I'd worked in bars, I'd worked on cruise ships, I'd traveled the world working, which was fantastic in the hospitality industry. And I was at a stage in my life where every 18 months, and it literally was 18 months, I was changing jobs, either positions within a company or moving to another company. And I sort of sat down and reflected and thought, what's this 18 months? And I realized I was getting to a point where I was either bored because I felt like I had nowhere to go within the company, or I felt like I could run the company. So a little bit arrogant, because now I run a company, I realized how many lessons I still had to learn. But I took some time out and then made the decision that actually I want to work for myself. I don't want to work within a corporate environment where I'm answering to management. So I set up Siren Events, and we focus purely on corporate events, and mainly for C-suite and internal events. So by C-suite, I mean sort of that CEO, very sort of high-end level of events, and internal events where things like kickoffs, employee engagement, employee appreciation, and became very busy, which was great. But became, through Siren Events, we actually started doing Dragon Boat events, which then became a whole separate business. So my second business was born, which is called Uae Dragon Boat. And we organize Dragon Boat festivals across the UAE, but we also do Dragon Boat as a team building activity. So it was it was born out of, actually, I was trying to do a corporate event for Etihad where I wanted to do a Dragon Boat event. So my second business, sort of, they complement each other. So UAE Dragon Boat and Siren Events complement each other. But you can imagine, busy, 2 businesses, very small team, didn't want a big team. When I first started Siren Events, I was very clear I didn't want to build a big full-time team. I wanted to keep it small so we could be flexible, we could bring in talent when needed, but not keep talent stagnating when they're not needed, which is often the case in a lot of big companies. So I was like, but I found myself working 23 hours a day, 7 days a week. I was completely disconnected from my family, from my friends, from my life. And I remember saying, as many business owners do when you set up your business, I'm going to set up my own business so I can live the life I want to live. I can travel, I can spend time with my family, and I found myself in a situation where I was just completely overwhelmed, thinking to myself, what happened to that vision that I had? That vision where I was going to be, you know, sitting on a beach, reading books, traveling, going out with friends. So I realized something had to give or change. Either I was going to have a mental breakdown, or something had to change. However, I didn't want to take on a full-time member of staff because both my businesses were seasonal. So whilst we were very busy from October through to April, we were very quiet through the summer months. And we have Ramadan, so Ramadan's a very quiet period for us as well. So the thought of taking on a full-time member of staff to do all my admin, which generally was what was keeping me busy. I was busy doing admin, which was crazy. I wasn't busy out managing events. All my time was focused on chasing payments, producing LPOs, producing invoices. So my third business was born because I thought, well, I don't want to take on a full-time member of staff, but I want a professional executive assistant that I can delegate all of this to, but I don't want to pay a full-time salary because I don't want to have to cover their visas, their medical insurance, etc. And I found a couple of virtual assistant services, predominantly based in India and the Philippines. Right. And it didn't work for me because I'm a very, I'm a face-to-face person. I want someone who I can see and meet. And I was like, okay, this isn't going to work. So my PA was born. So I thought, I know, I'll set up another company. I'm working 23 hours a day, 7 days a week. I know what I'll do. I'll set up another company. My PA immediately gave me my life back. Because what I discovered was that in the UAE, there is this amazing talent pool of women who are executive assistants, maybe back in their home countries, have moved to the UAE with their husbands and their families, or maybe were working in a role here in the UAE and have left to have a family. They want to go back to work, but they don't want to go back into a 9-to-5, or they want flexibility. So I realized that everything I was looking for was out there, and that there were so many other people like me who were business owners that needed the same service. And whilst my PA is a virtual personal assistant or virtual assistant service, the beauty is we're still real, because all of my assistants, apart from one who's just relocated back to the Philippines, everybody's based here in the UAE. So each of our clients, if they still need that face-to-face time, they can have it. So so now I have 3 businesses. I'm about to launch a 4th, and
wonderful, congratulations.
So yeah, that's me. That's what's keeping me busy.
Right. I will come to your 4th business in a bit, Fiona, but I would like to know, you said Uae Dragon Boat. When did you set it up? Which year was that?
Oh, so now that would have been, we're now coming into our 12th year. So it was 1 year after we'd set up Siren Event. So about 2008. So.
Okay, whereas your virtual PA business is just started now, or has it been there for a long time?
6 years ago. So 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I was having a meltdown and realized.
So you could. I would say then that you were a visionary, because now everybody is looking at that. And I think what you're saying, what you projected for as a virtual assistant was something which was happening in the IT field, probably. Maybe people were not looking at it. And of course, your concept of virtual is more face-to-face. So it's different. That's what. So when you say what is your USP, I think that is what you would say your USP.
I think also it's for me, my USP, I realized that I like helping people. I'm a solutions provider. In events, I provide solutions. I asked each of our clients to give us some feedback on why they work with us. And the same words kept coming up, and it was flexibility, it was attention to detail, and it was the fact that we care and you're part of the team. So yeah, all of my businesses, even with Uae Dragon Boat, that's a big community. We've built a Dragon Boat community within the UAE, and now it's starting to go out across the GCC. So yeah, I like to give people solutions. I hate, even personally with friends and my family, I'm always the one, I don't panic. So whenever there's a crisis, I'd like to find solutions. I joke and say, if I wasn't an entrepreneur, I'd be a firefighter, because it's like, I'd be putting out fires everywhere. So.
I think it's a very nice thing which you brought up for companies and for people who are solution providers to understand that you're in the same team. You're not on the opposite sides of the end. Both the parties want a successful ending to the whole project or program or whatever it is. Only then both can benefit. So I think what you said just now, that your clients give you this testimonial that you're a part of their team and they feel a part of your team. I think it's something really very worthwhile looking into for the audience and for them to think over this while they are looking at. Again, something which I read last week as well as now what you said is the fact that you look at it as what solution can you provide. I think that's something which is very valuable what you've told us here, and I'm really grateful for that. So some questions now that you are handling 3 businesses and the 4th one is also coming. Tell me, do you have each one is a strategic business unit, so you look at what income comes from one should cover for us, or do you overlap? And it's okay to overlap. How do you do that? What do you look at in terms of the financials of the organization?
Okay, so financially they run separately, but there's a caveat to that. So we have accounts for each, so they are run so that I can see a true picture of how a business is doing.
Right.
The beauty of having multiple businesses is they can support from a cash flow point of view. So if maybe we need to transfer funds into one company and then so it does give you a bit more flexibility, but also financially it gives you more buying power, because you can also come in as a group and say, and you can also share costs, so across various levels. So whether that's having an office environment where, because obviously legalities, you can have separate offices, but maybe you have a central back office so that the admin and everything is done shared. Obviously for me, all of the admin for Siren Events and Uae Dragon Boat is done through my PA. We are a client of my PA. So that's the way, and Siren Events is a client of Uae Dragon Boat. So, and so that works very well, but I prefer to, and this is something, a piece of advice I'd give anybody who's thinking about setting up a business, is keep your personal finances and your business finances separate. Now, you may be putting personal funds in, but run separate accounts, pay yourself a salary, because even if you put the salary back into the business, pay yourself a salary on the books, pay yourself a salary, because you can have as much passion and engagement and enthusiasm, but you need to be valued as well. So, and also you need to see that the business is being run as a business. It's not a hobby. It's different if it's a hobby and maybe you sell something, but if you're running it as a business needs to have, proper records, and so I always say to people, and my accountant always laughs at me because I am very, very strict about keeping everything separate. So
I think it gives a perspective on how successful the business actually is, even like you said, even if you put the money back into it. So some question which I'm sure entrepreneurs struggle with is, were you always like this from day one? You had decided that this is how I'm going to keep it with respect to my accounts or with respect to whatever, like if you decide an amount you're going to put it in, that's fine. You know where it went. Was it like always, or did you learn on the way?
I've always been a very organized person, and I do like structure. And that's from a very early age. I like structure and organization. So I started out saying, I want to see clearly, because otherwise, but if it's in here, nobody else knows. And if you want to grow your business and, and maybe you want to get financing, or, you have to be able to produce reports and to try and go back and remember, well, did I take 200 dirhams petty cash out of my account, or was it out of this account? Or so, yeah, I would say, to answer your question, yeah, I've always been like that. just because I like structure and organization. I'm not very good around things that are muddled. So.
Do you think it helps that you are managing your businesses yourself? You don't have a partner or someone, so you can, be kind of more decisive in your actions.
Yeah.
And do you think it helps?
I'm an only child. I'm an only granddaughter, and I'm the only niece. So I don't share very well. So yeah, I mean, joking aside, yes, it's easier because it's easier in some ways because obviously you're making the decision. But on the other side, it's very lonely.
It's a lonely life.
So
yes, it's a very lonely life.
It's because the buck stops with you, good or bad, it stops with you. Sometimes you may make decisions from an emotional mindset, where if maybe you had a partner, you would be able to debate it and discuss it. So whilst for me, yes, it suits me, I would say to people it's very lonely, and I don't have a partner, but I have a network of peers who I can actually go and have that discussion that I can't have with my team, because sometimes you've got to make decisions that you can't really discuss with your team. So yeah.
So on another note, what kind of a leader would you say you are with your team members? Of course, considering that they are not, many of them are not full-time, and many of them are not 365 days interacting with you. What kind of a leader do you think you are?
Oh, I think you better ask them. Well, what I will say is, throughout my professional life, I have learned from some amazing mentors. I've worked with some amazing people. Also worked with some pretty horrible people, but the people that I really admire, that I feel that I've learned my management style from. And with my current businesses, one of the freelancers who started with me right at the beginning is still with me. So, we've worked together 13 years. I'm very fair, I would say, but I'm also very tough. I don't expect anybody to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. I don't think I'm any better than anybody in my team. In fact, I think most of my team are better than me. And I genuinely believe in sort of Richard Branson's ideology of surround yourself with experts and be the idiot. Because whilst I can be the visionary and I can pull everybody together, I want to bring together a talent pool of people who can do the stuff that I'm not very good at. And that's what I tend to do with my team. I find people that are different to me rather than.
I think recognizing that part, that your capabilities are somewhere else, your skills are somewhere else, itself makes you a leader. And like you said, you're fair. So, and the fact that somebody's been working with you all the 13 years through, I'm sure that your team must be really very appreciative of you. So I don't really need to ask your team, and even you don't need to ask them.
Actually, I'm reading a book at the moment called Radical Candor, and it's actually about managing teams. And the biggest thing that came up that I'm really trying to apply at the moment is that you need to remember to give negative as well as positive feedback, because often in whatever role, whether you're a business owner, you're a supervisor, you're a manager, you're a student teacher sort of environment, sometimes somebody is doing something maybe not to standard or not in the correct way. And rather than investing the time in showing them how to do it properly, we say, oh, give it to me, I can do it quicker.
Do it.
And then that's not managing your team, because then when you get frustrated with them and you say, right, sorry, we can no longer work together, well, you haven't given them the fair feedback. So that's one thing I'm focusing on this year, is trying to make sure that I always praise, but sometimes I'm not as good at maybe spending the time to coach them to do it as expected, rather than, I just take it off them and do it myself. So
Actually, in the beginning of 2020, when just the pandemic had set in, I came across Jack Canfield's this conversation where he says that every 2 weeks he reviews his relationships, including his personal and professional. And what I liked about it, he said he asks people, how do you rate the situation or the relationship on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is best, obviously. And then if somebody says it's a 5 or a 6 or a 7, he says, what would it take to make it a 10? So
yeah.
that was really, something which I have taken forward with wherever I'm like, okay, if this is a situation, what I think that had more value, because the person who is saying 8 or 9 at random needs to think about why they need to, why they're giving you that score and what you should be doing, which can be positive way. So that was one of the things. We are all readers, so I can see that you're passionate about reading. Let's talk a little bit about your marketing. I did happen to go through your website of Siren Events, and so do you maintain different websites for different businesses?
Yes, so currently we have 3 websites, and I'll be very honest, the one that's neglected the most is Siren Events. Mainly because when I talk to my clients, or I talk to new clients to say, how did you hear about us? It's normally through referral, or it's from Instagram. They're like, oh, we found you on Instagram, or we found an event you did on Instagram. So we have a MyPA, we have, it's actually called Dubai Dragon Boat. We have a Dubai Dragon Boat website, and we have Siren Events website. So we're actually at the moment doing our wish list for upgrades on all our online media, and marketing. So
right. So one of the things which I teach is integrated marketing communication. So do you think at some point you would be having that each of your individual businesses should actually show the other 2 also? Or now you're going to have a 4th one as well, or should it be independent entities? What would you think about? I mean, have you thought about the website and details of that?
So I think what we actually, not necessarily with the website, with Siren Events and Dubai Dragon Boat, we do. We have a link through to Dragon Boating. What I feel is, what we've noticed is we're supporting each other and talking about each other and becoming more integrated on our social media channels. So if Uae Dragon Boat has an event coming up, then Siren Events will talk about it. MyPA will talk about it. If MyPA has an offer, we will talk about it on Siren Events. So it's more, but it's about having a plan. And so often I think people are reactive rather than, so for 2021, what we actually did for our we always have a social media calendar and a plan, but we actually did a 12 months to put in all the international holidays, and so we could start thinking about what's our blog messages going to be, what are our, because otherwise, suddenly it's International Women's Day and you're like, oh, we have to post, and the post is either a really poor post or you haven't thought about it. So yeah, I do think it works. I think you need to leverage the community that each of your businesses have. So
it also gives you an opportunity to tell them about what your other businesses are actually. So that's great. It's very, I don't know, somehow in my mind, I always think that Instagram and Facebook feeds kind of go away. So I'm pretty surprised that when you said that somebody found you through an Instagram post. So was it something when it has happened recently, or do people actually go to Instagram to search for any kind of need that they have, which they want to fulfill?
I think I genuinely believe it depends on the age and the personality type, because I do think, and I notice it with my team who are younger, they find everything on Instagram, absolutely everything, whatever you need, suddenly they're connected with someone on Instagram. And also if you're a very visual person, I think people go to Instagram, because with corporate events, they want to see what you've done. I could tell them anything. I can tell them we can do this, we can do that, but they want to see it. They want to see video content. They want to see photos. With my PA, which is an online, and this is something, I mean, I'm happy to share. I realized 2 years ago, I was like, okay, my PA, we're a virtual business, 3 years ago, sorry now. We weren't doing SEO management. I typed in my PA and we were on like page 3 of Google. We may as well have just closed the doors. I was like, oh my God. But suddenly the realization was there and we had to sit down and come up. But we didn't panic and go, oh, we've got to do everything. We sat down and came up with a plan and said, okay. And I think with marketing, so often people react, you know, there's a new thing, Snapchat, TikTok. Well, TikTok's not the audience I'm talking to. So why am I worrying about TikTok? But for my PA, SEO, writing blogs, making sure, suddenly I realized, okay, but we put the plan together and then we put it in place and we got, you know, to page 1 and the top ranking. But it takes time and it takes investment. But, you know, but seriously, you have these stupid realizations, not stupid, but you suddenly realize the basics aren't even there. I'm an online service and I'm on page 3 of Google. That's crazy. It's, you know, so, but we're not anymore. I like to say to everybody, great. We're on page 1 now.
That's great. It is. So apart, you mentioned you use Instagram and I think you said Facebook, you have a website. What are the other tools or things that you use for marketing the organization?
So for marketing, and this is sort of going back to my university days as well, as I realized that, as I said, you know, you've got to look at what works for you. Often I think, you know, people marketing, there are so many things under marketing. So you've got to look at what your product or your service is and who your target audience is. So for my PA, the realization was that, okay, we're looking at small business owners that have been in business for a year. So we're a virtual outsourced business. So it's critical that we have a good online presence. So SEO and LinkedIn rather than Facebook and Instagram works better for us. Actually direct mail, you know, direct marketing. So we then started doing a newsletter, but we did a newsletter quarterly because we realized that monthly we were just becoming spam. So whereas with Siren events, referral marketing is much better for us. So for me, it's networking, but it's networking where the heads of marketing will be, and you know, I need to be talking to, because we work with international brands. So I need to be in the places where I'm going to meet or mixing with the people. So LinkedIn a little bit, but it's more about referrals. It's making sure that our existing clients are talking to their network, attending conferences where we can meet, you know, marketing directors and things like that, hanging out at BBG and French Business Council and people like that. So yeah, you have to change it. I don't think there's a set formula that works. I think you have to look at all the different types of marketing, because for some people, direct sales, cold calling, these things work better, where for others, more of that sort of referral marketing works. So
right. I think that also depends on the kind of products that you're offering, whether it is, you know, how necessary is it, or is it a luxury, or is it somewhere in between kind of a thing. And so that would really be important, I suppose. So now you've said you've mainly spoken about owned media, like what you have, you know, with you, like your websites and your newsletters, and you've said about shared media in terms of Instagram and things. What about paid media? Do you use any advertisings and advertisements or radio, or do you do all that?
Yeah, so with Uae Dragon Boat for events, then yes, we work with, but normally on media partnerships, so with radio, newspaper, magazines, where it's more of a sponsorship. So sponsorship is, you know, again, form of marketing is very, but we have, we don't really, we've worked with PR agencies in the past where we've done PR and we've brought an agency in. Less so now, not for any other reason than it just wasn't reaching my target audience. So we reinvested the budget into other, and sometimes I do feel that you've got to try a little bit of paid media, a little bit, because it's then seeing, okay, what's bringing results, depending on what you want those results to be. Is it visibility? Is it sales? Is it, brand reputation? What are you trying to do? But because all of my businesses are services, we tried with my PA doing some advertising in magazines like CEO and things like that. But again, it didn't really give us results. It helped us build brand, so it was worth it. But then I found that investing that money into a different avenue, like with SEO and working with somebody to write blogs and stuff, was actually for what we wanted. We wanted to build our client base. We didn't really want, so it worked better. But there is definitely room for paid advertising, I'd say especially for product. Product definitely works. I've seen it when we've worked with clients at Siren Events that, are big FMCG and companies and but again, it all comes down to what budget you have as well, because paid advertising can be expensive, and and obviously a lot of the time things like PR, you need a minimum of 3 months to start seeing, a one-off project isn't going to see the results. You need a campaign really.
Yes, so that is, like you said, the services and the product fact actually makes a lot of difference. And also you've been in the market. Let's not forget that you've been here for 13 years and there is your own personal brand as well behind these organizations. So tell me something about your fourth busy, which is coming up.
Okay, so my fourth business was, well, it grew out of a conversation with a friend where we have a mutual interest. And I don't want to talk too much about it because I want to get the brand and everything. But again, it started off and it was a conversation, and we realized that there was a gap in the market and there was a need for this business. And we realized again, I could take a passion and a hobby and turn it into a business. And I'm like, bonus. So I can pretty much do one of my hobbies and get paid to do it. Fantastic. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? So yeah.
that and you should do what makes you happy, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Exactly. But
everyone
again,
wants to do that.
I want to get the marketing ready before we launch it. What I don't want to do is put it out in the market when it's not ready. So already what we've done is we've sat down and thought about, okay, how are we launching this? What marketing we're going to do? Because I think that's critical. Often I think people just open the doors.
Yes. I will ask you about your this marketing when you've launched it and when you've reached somewhere, and we'll keep that for a part 2 with Fiona. But going back 2 steps, when you decided about this, you said there was a gap in the market. Did you do any kind of market research, or was there for any of your businesses, if you could give us some light into what kind of research you did? I mean, online is there, okay, and now it's been there around, but what any other type of research do you do? Were you able to be objective about it, that yes, this business is needed out here and these are the reasons, which you could jot down and say even 3 or 5 of them?
Yeah, I think definitely everybody should do market research, because just because you believe there's a need doesn't mean that there's really a need. Yes. Just because you get excited, you think you get that idea and
the solution.
It's like, I found the solution. So what we actually did is we went out to the industry that we would be, so our potential customers, and asked them, would they use the service? And some people came back and said no. And then we asked them why. Why wouldn't you use the service? And so already then we started seeing our SWOT coming together, because then we realized that some of our strengths were great, but some of our threats were that there are, the person could go direct to the source. So So I definitely, when we did our market research, we sat down and did a projected revenue, so how many customers to break even and to then see a profit. We went out to our potential customers, and we went to our suppliers as such. So we looked at both sides. So we looked and we talked to, okay, let's talk to our suppliers, let's talk to our customers, let's tell them about the idea. I think in the IT world they call it beta testing, and
beta
testing. And we sort of and we said, right, okay, we're thinking of doing this. Would you use a service like this, or would you sign up? And we got some. So again, then we realized that we needed to have an additional service added, because some people said, yeah, but I couldn't be bothered and to do it myself. And suddenly we realized, so we need to have a secondary service to the one. So market research is critical, pricing, and looking at the demand and the supply, because it's all very well if I want to go out and sell ice to the Eskimos, then they're going to turn around and say, well, we've got plenty of ice, why would I buy ice? It's like, so.
Right. So I think you've given a very wonderful insight, Fiona. The fact that you said that you not only looked at the customers, but you've also looked at the suppliers, and the fact that you actually brought out the numbers, that can be real, very interesting insight for entrepreneurs to know that at the market research stage itself, you can work out the numbers and see what is the potential. And then you take a risk. And then, of course, anything can happen. That's all right. Yeah. Yes, but at least you tried and you knew what you were letting yourself into. So that I think that's really very nice. And it can come only from years of experience of having been an entrepreneur. So I have to really thank you for that. Tell me something. Somewhere you said 18 was your magic number. So this 18 months, but now you'll soon be reaching 18 years. What do you think will be your transformation when you reach there?
Well, I think it's interesting that my journey is never ending. So I came to Dubai 21 years ago. I came in 1999. So I've watched it grow. And my journey through, I started Siren, then Uae Dragon Boat. So who knows? I think it's like I genuinely get a joy out of managing businesses and teams, and seeing my team almost for me to step out of the being in it. So I step into more of a CEO or, sort of that managing director, rather than being in the day-to-day running. And then move on. So still stay very involved, but not in the day-to-day. Let people. I love seeing my colleagues, and then my team members actually grow and start growing the business and taking the responsibility. So yeah, so who knows? I think in 18 years, maybe I'll be up to business number 8. Who knows?
Wonderful, wonderful. I wish you all the best. And does the Fiona who started her entrepreneurial journey for more time, for family, and to do the things and the holidays she wanted to take, do you get time now? Are you able to do that now?
I have learned to delegate. Absolutely. I mean, anybody ever wants to have a cup of coffee with me and talk about delegation, I delegate everything. Every time I do something and I think, oh, I don't like doing this, I write it on a list. I'm a list girl. I'm a bullet point girl, because then I know there's a reason I don't want to do it. And then I'm thinking, okay, it's because you're not enjoying it, or maybe it's not in my knowledge set. So who can I then delegate that to? Who's going to enjoy doing it? So, because if you enjoy what you do, time flies by. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, that is so true. Tell me a little bit. You love reading. You love Dragon Boat. Anything else about yourself? Your background, about your academic or your skill set? Anything which you want to? Of course, managing people. All that is there, but something which the audience doesn't know about you. So this is not a truth or dare, but you could just go ahead and share something.
So 2 fun facts about me. So at the age of 10, I won awards in the Girl Guides, and I won a trip to Switzerland. Wow. And I came home and I announced to my mother that I was going to Switzerland. And she said to me, I think you need to have my permission. You're 10 years old. And I looked at her and said, really? So that was when I realized I was destined to be a nomad for the rest of my life. Although this country is the longest I've ever lived in a country. But I think the reason I've stayed here so long is because it's a hub. So I love traveling the world. I love experiencing new cultures. So any excuse. So I then went off to university, and I was supposed to do a 4-year BA honours in international hospitality management in the UK. Of those 4 years, I was actually only in the UK for 18 months. So I won a scholarship to the US, which was amazing. Wow. I went to Abu Dhabi, I went to Brussels. So again, it was any opportunity when I was in education to travel, I would take it. And to this day, I'm very much like that. If somebody calls me and says, there's this opportunity, do you want to, go to India, Pakistan, wherever, I'm like, yeah, I'm there, let's go. So I love traveling, and I love seeing the world. The other fun fact is behind me, I don't know if you can see the sun's on it, I have a Formula One race suit, which has been signed by 2 Formula One drivers. I am an avid petrol head. I love everything to do with cars. And I used to be a go-karter. So I used to be in an all-girls go-karting team. And that's where I fell in love with Formula One, because I realized that I wanted to be a Formula One driver. Unfortunately, it was about 10 years too late. So as I can't be in it, I want to be at it. So hence why that's my pride and joy, because I actually managed to get that. So yeah, I love anything with big engines. So.
Wonderful. I think that's something which we share in common. I do visualize sometimes myself as having been a motorcyclist or doing a race. Yeah, it's many years too late, but we can dream, and why not? So it's been amazing talking to you, Fiona, and thank you so much for your time. Is there any quote or anything which you would like to tell my audience before we sign off for today?
Okay, I'm going to share my daily mantra with everybody and say, I'm a warrior, not a worrier. So when you go into business, stop worrying and just be a warrior. Get out there and do it. You'll be successful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think we really need to think about that mantra, be a warrior rather than a worrier. Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much for that, and for your time here, and for sharing all these wonderful insights with us. I wish you all the very best for everything that your future endeavors. And yes, you promised me a Fiona too another day and another time. Thank you for that, and bye for now.
Thank you ever so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.